Hello, welcome to this course on digital literacy. Digital literacy specifically targeted at educators. The objectives of this particular module is to first of all try to define what is digital literacy and more specifically in the context of education and for educators. We will be exploring lots of the key components of digital literacy because if we don't define it very clearly what it means to everybody, so there will be multiple interpretations of that particular term. So we will, for the purpose of educators and for the purpose of education, what constitutes digital literacy is something that we will talk about. And along the lines, we will try to understand the importance of digital literacy. And finally, in this whole course, we will talk quite a bit about how to apply digital literacy skills, right? So that is basically at the end of this particular module, we expect all the educators who are going through this particular course to be fully conversant with the various digital tools that you are likely to come across as an educator in order to make your life more productive and efficient, and also for your own institution it becomes a lot more easy to manage the various digital assets, because an organization or an institution may make available lots and lots of digital tools and technologies, but if the educators are not comfortable enough to exploit those tools and technologies, then the investment that happens in terms of on the educators themselves to make them more efficient and thus increasing the effectiveness of teaching, because after all, the main goal of an education institution is to be imparting high quality education to the students, and a good familiarity with the digital literacy tools and technologies will indeed make one a very comfortable and efficient educator. Let us begin by defining what is digital literacy. Digital literacy refers to the skills and competencies needed to manage, when I say manage, create, use, update or modify and share digital assets in a manner that is useful, secure and ethical, right? So let us look at some of the keywords that are there in this definition, right? Obviously, the first most important keyword which I have put in bold is the digital aspect of it, right? So when you talk about asset, now generally when we in finance terms or in other terms, in the non-technical terms, when you talk about an asset, we talk about movable assets and immovable assets and so on. Here we are talking about digital assets, which means that digital assets are those which are stored in a digital form, which are manipulated in a digital form using digital equipment like the computers. So that is the digital aspect of it, right? So anything that can be manipulated, stored, used, consumed using a digital device like a computer, a mobile phone, a tablet, right? So they are called as digital assets. So that is the digital part of it. In a manner that is useful, right? So because what we are saying is that we are not trying to understand, learn and use digital assets just for the sake of using it, right? For example, a digital asset which is not in useful state is a document which never gets opened in a computer, but if somebody insists on taking a printout of it and then writing it down, then it is not a useful way of utilizing a digital asset, right? So that is what we mean by useful. So we have to ensure that we have enough digital literacy to be able to create or work with digital assets in a useful manner. Of course, security is these days extremely important, right? Well, while I do agree that the good old printed documents can be easily secured by putting them up inside a cupboard under lock and key, digital assets are more vulnerable to security threats. So while it is important to understand how to make digital assets useful for you, you also had to know how to manage it in a secure manner. Okay. The last part is becoming increasingly important, which is the ethics aspect of it. That is becoming extremely important these days in the face of, you must be hearing a lot about artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, and then when people talk about responsible AI, ethics, and so on. It is not as if suddenly everybody has woken up to the notion of being responsible and being ethical only after AI came, right? So ever since the digital, information revolution has happened, right? So if we are always constantly very vulnerable to utilize, these digital information assets that are at our disposal in an ethical manner. Okay, so I can easily share one unethical use of digital information asset, right? So you just talk about the grade sheet, the grade sheet of your class, right? So it is very easily possible that we misuse. Not we. When I say we, anybody who is having access to that particular information may misuse. And also, these days people talk about data as being the new oil. And what stops somebody from selling that oil in an unethical manner for profit, right? So that is why we also have to be conscious about what are the ethical uses of information, digital information, and how do you safeguard that it is put to only ethical use. So that is what we talk about digital literacy, right? So which means that I understand, right? So all of you must be educators in the engineering discipline. So you may be wondering, say, I already know how to use PowerPoint. I already know how to use Excel and so on. Yes, that is probably you are already there in terms of understanding, putting digital assets to useful, applications, right? So that is the first part is probably already there. But I would suspect that from my side, I will try to add even more value to what you already know by telling you more useful ways of, of using those digital information. But of course, we will have additional discussions on security and ethical aspects as well. So from an importance point of view, right? So these days, every higher educational institution has embraced information technology as part of the core infrastructure, right? In the good old days, when we say what is an educational institution used to be a place which, from an infrastructure point of view, it is expected to have classrooms, tables and chairs for the students to sit on, and possibly a whiteboard and chalk for the course instructor to use, right? So now we have come a long way beyond that. So higher education institutions are investing, making a lot of investments in improving the information technology adoption within their institution, not just to make it easier for the learners, but also for educators as well. Finally, it is also becoming a mandatory expectation from the regulatory authorities like AICTE and UGC. So education institutions no longer can think of this as a luxury. Information technology is no longer a luxury for higher education institutions. So given that, now we all being part of, being part of that particular educational system, it is imperative that educators as well are digitally literate to be able to utilize all those information technology resources that are provided to us. Okay, so which means that I mean, as I said, it is not just for, it definitely improves your personal and organizational productivity, right? So, from a personal productivity itself, right, it makes you immensely productive. And I will specifically talk about how specific tools in software and hardware will make you more productive. Not just that, there's enormous amount of synergy that this will bring for the educational institution as well. If all the educators in an education institution make optimum utilization of information technology, then it automatically elevates the productivity and efficiency of the whole educational institution as well. And of course, now we are talking about being educators for new age students, right? So many of them are almost born with a digital device in their hand, right? So, which means that it will become, it will be viewed as being a very regressive matter if one is not keeping up with the tools and technologies that the learners, the students, are comfortable with in a day-to-day operations, right? So that is another very strong reason why educators need to be digitally literate. So when you talk about digital assets in higher education, broadly, we will be talking about computing devices. We will be talking about applications and software products, which will make which is definitely useful for educators in general. And digital information is also an intangible asset, right? So which is immovable. I don't know. So right. So it's an intangible asset, a digital asset that is, as I said, people do talk about data and information being the new oil, which means it is an extremely powerful resource that one needs to know how to handle. So as part of this particular digital literacy course for educators, I have put together 5 modules, right? We will talk specifically about the digital assets themselves, the hardware, the software, the information, and so on. And so which will be part of the first module, which we are having, the introductory module. Following that, specifically, I would like to spend a good amount of time on data handling, right? Day in and day out, we all educators handle lots and lots of data. It could be the grades obtained by students in various assessments, and then you have aggregated information across multiple assessments, and then all of them put together in the form of grades, and across multiple courses which are aggregated and percolated above at an institutional level, and over and above the institutional level, it goes further up into accreditation like NARF, NAC, and so on. So it is very important that at the grassroots level, we as educators are comfortable in digital data, handling digital data. How do you organize it, right? So what are the tools? What are the efficient ways of organizing? And those who already work with a lot of data would have already guessed what it is going to be on. So I'll leave you guessing on that one until that module starts. And the third important aspect of digital literacy that I would like to talk about is efficient document handling, right? So day in and day out, we keep working with all kinds of documents, right? So documents which could, at a course level, it could be, say, your slides, your lecture notes, right? So there's so many documents that you will be dealing with at a course level. I mean, it could be assignment document, homework documents, and so on. And beyond that, right? So many of these things get aggregated into reports, which get uploaded to various accreditation agencies, portals, and so on, right? So we will be talking about how to efficiently work with document handling. In fact, so it's just, I'm not going to make this into a tutorial on PPT or Word. Of course, there are plenty of other tutorials that are available. But as an educator, for an educator, what are some of the things that you can do to efficiently manage your own document assets is something that I'll be focusing on. Okay. Now, these days, we cannot ignore generative AI, right? While we all might be having our own skepticism about the relevance of generative AI, it is there. It is not something to be ignored. So I'm not going to project that generative AI is going to make your life very easy. What I'm going to focus on is what is the best way for educators to tap into the benefits of generative AI. Okay, again, this is not a full-fledged course on generative AI, but something which is very relevant from a higher education perspective. What are the do's and don'ts? What are the caveats that we have to keep in mind? That is something that I will focus on. Lastly, as I mentioned, it is imperative that we all, as educators, in fact, every individual who deals with digital technology needs to have basic cybersecurity awareness, right? Once again, by no means of imagination, I'm saying that those who are going through this particular course on digital literacy are unaware of cybersecurity, but this is something that that is something, almost like a compliance requirement. So probably, you are so comfortable with all of these things that you may quickly go through, complete that particular video. But I am including it as part of as a module in the digital literacy purely for the purpose of completeness, right? So there you go. So that is what this particular course on digital literacy for educators is all about. So I am hoping that, I'm sure, in fact, that none of you are starting from ground zero on this one. It will be my endeavor to imagine where are the likely gaps, because I have interacted with educators, as part of board of studies or many other committees and so on. So I have seen the extent to which digital information assets are being used and utilized. So it will be my endeavor to to share the best practices in order to make the existing knowledge that you already have on on digital information management, to try to make you more effective and productive. So with that introduction, let's see what is next, right? So next we will first try to be on the same page about on the digital assets, right? So I did talk about the hardware and software. What are the different categories of software and hardware that is relevant and useful for educators is what we'll be seeing next.